a global cyber attack leveraging hacking tools believed to have been developed by the U.S. National Security Agency has infected tens of thousands of computers in nearly 100 countries, disrupting Britain's health system and global shipper FedEx. Cyber extortionists tricked victims into opening malicious malware attachments to spam emails that appeared to contain invoices, job offers, security warnings and other legitimate files. The ransomware encrypted data on the computers, demanding payments of $300 to $600 to restore access. Security researchers said they observed some victims paying via the digital currency Bitcoin, though they did not know what percent had given in to the extortionists. Researchers with security software maker Avast said they had observed 57,000 infections in 99 countries, with Russia, Ukraine and Taiwan the top targets. Asian countries reported no major breaches on Saturday, but officials in the region were scrambling to check and the full extent of the damage may not be known for some time. China's official Xinhua news agency said some secondary schools and universities had been affected, without specifying how many or identifying them. The most disruptive attacks were reported in Britain, where hospitals and clinics were forced to turn away patients after losing access to computers on Friday. International shipper FedEx Corp said some of its Windows computers were also infected. "We are implementing remediation steps as quickly as possible," it said in a statement. From Argentina to Spain. Only a small number of U.S.-headquartered organizations were hit because the hackers appear to have begun the campaign by targeting organizations in Europe, said Vikram Thakur, research manager with security software maker Symantec. By the time they turned their attention to the United States, spam filters have identified the new threat and flagged the ransomware-laden emails as malicious, Thakur added. Infections of the worm appeared to have fallen off significantly after a security researcher bought a domain that the malware was connecting to, by chance undermining the malware's effectiveness. Making the domain active appears to have stunted the spread of the worm, Thakur said on Saturday. The numbers are extremely low and coming down fast, he said, while cautioning that any change in the original code could lead the worm to flare up again. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security said late on Friday it was aware of reports of the ransomware, was sharing information with domestic and foreign partners and was ready to lend technical support. Telecommunications company Telefónica was among many targets in Spain, though it said the attack was limited to some computers on an internal network and had not affected clients or services. Portugal Telecom and Telefónica Argentina both said they were also targeted. Private security firms identified the ransomware as a new variant of WannaCry that had the ability to automatically spread across large networks by exploiting a known bug in Microsoft's Windows operating system. The hackers, who have not come forward to claim responsibility or otherwise been identified, likely made it a worm, or self-spreading malware, by exploiting a piece of NSA code known as Eternal Blue that was released last month by a group known as the Shadow Brokers, researchers with several private cybersecurity firms said. This is one of the largest global ransomware attacks the cyber community has ever seen, said Rich Barger, director of threat research with Splunk, one of the firms that linked WannaCry to the NSA. The Shadow Brokers released Eternal Blue as part of a trove of hacking tools that they said belonged to the U.S. spy agency. Microsoft said it was pushing out automatic Windows updates to defend clients from WannaCry. It issued a patch on March 14 to protect them from Eternal Blue. Today our engineers added detection and protection against new malicious software known as Win32.1 Microsoft said in a statement on Friday, adding it was working with customers to provide additional assistance. The spread of the ransomware capped a week of cyber turmoil in Europe that began the previous week when hackers posted a trove of campaign documents tied to French candidate Emmanuel Macron just before a runoff vote in which he was elected president of France. On Wednesday, hackers disrupted the websites of several French media companies and aerospace giant Airbus. Also, The hack happened 4 weeks before a British general election in which national security and the management of the state-run National Health Service, NHS, are important issues. Authorities in Britain have been braced for cyber attacks in the run-up to the vote, as happened during last year's US election and on the eve of the French vote. But those attacks, blamed on Russia, which has repeatedly denied them, followed a different modus operandi involving penetrating the accounts of individuals and political organizations and then releasing hacked material online. On Friday, Russia's Interior and Emergencies Ministries, as well as its biggest bank, Sberbank, said they were targeted. The Interior Ministry said on its website that about 1,000 computers had been infected, but it had localized the virus. The Emergencies Ministry told Russian news agencies it had repelled the cyber attacks, while Sberbank said its cybersecurity systems had prevented viruses from entering its systems. Although cyber extortion cases have been rising for several years, they have to date affected small to mid-sized organizations, disrupting services provided by hospitals, police departments, public transport systems and utilities in the United States and Europe. Seeing a large telco like Telefonica get hit is going to get everybody worried. Now ransomware is affecting larger companies with more sophisticated security operations, said Chris Wysopal, Chief Technology Officer with cybersecurity firm Veracode. The news is also likely to embolden extortionists when selecting targets, Chris Camacho, Chief Strategy Officer with cyber intelligence firm Flashpoint, said. In Spain, some big firms took preemptive steps to thwart ransomware attacks following a warning from the National Cryptology Center of a massive ransomware attack. Iberdrola and Gas Natural, along with Vodafone's unit in Spain, asked staff to turn off computers or cut off internet access in case they had been compromised, representatives from the firms said. The attacks did not disrupt the provision of services or networks operations of the victims, the Spanish government said in a statement. Hackers unleashed an attack that disabled computers in dozens of nations Friday using a software flaw that once was part of the National Security Agency's surveillance toolkit. The resulting wave of online chaos affected tens of thousands of machines worldwide, snarling operations at the Russian Interior Ministry, Spanish telecommunications giant Telefonica and Britain's National Health Services, NHS, where hospitals were hobbled and medical procedures interrupted. Europe, Latin America and parts of Asia were hit particularly hard, although in the United States, FedEx also reported falling prey to the malware. The attack was the latest in a growing menace of ransomware, in which hackers deliver files to computers that automatically encrypt their data, making it unusable, until a ransom is paid. International attack, ransomware cripples computers worldwide. Europe, Latin America and parts of Asia were hit particularly hard, although in the United States, FedEx also reported falling prey to the malware. The attack was the latest in a growing menace of ransomware, in which hackers deliver files to computers that automatically encrypt their data, making it unusable, until a ransom is paid. World. Copyright 2017, The Washington Post, Craig Timberg, Ruth Witt, Ellen Nakashima, The Washington Post, updated, May 13, 2017 9:51 IST. 82 shares. Email. Print. 6. Comments. International attack, ransomware cripples computers worldwide. A list of affected locations included London, Blackburn, Nottingham, Cumbria, and Hertfordshire. Highlights. Cyber attack hits Europe, Latin America, parts of Asia. FedEx also reported falling prey to the malware. Britain's National Health Services hit, hospitals services affected. Hackers unleashed an attack that disabled computers in dozens of nations Friday using a software flaw that once was part of the National Security Agency's surveillance toolkit. The resulting wave of online chaos affected tens of thousands of machines worldwide, snarling operations at the Russian Interior Ministry, Spanish telecommunications giant Telefónica and Britain's National Health Services, NHS, where hospitals were hobbled and medical procedures interrupted. Europe, Latin America and parts of Asia were hit particularly hard, although in the United States, FedEx also reported falling prey to the malware. The attack was the latest in a growing menace of ransomware, in which hackers deliver files to computers that automatically encrypt their data, making it unusable, until a ransom is paid. This is not targeted at the NHS, British Prime Minister Theresa May told reporters. It's an international attack, and a number of countries and organizations have been affected. The hack renewed a long-running debate about the dangers of intelligence agencies such as the NSA collecting and using software flaws for espionage, rather than quickly alerting companies to vulnerabilities so they can fix them. In this case, the NSA found a flaw in Microsoft software that made the hack possible. The agency reported the flaw to company after a security breach was discovered in August, according to former U.S. officials speaking on the condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of the topic. Microsoft fixed the problem in a patch it released in March, before a group calling itself the Shadow Brokers publicly released it online in April. But system administrators appear to have applied the patch inconsistently, leaving some computers vulnerable. The vulnerability gave the hackers what amounted a lockpick to the Microsoft software on computers that did not receive the update from the company or that used outdated operating systems.